everybody, Michelle here with an astrology update for the next week or so. On Friday the 27th of July we have the mother of all eclipses. It's a lunar eclipse in the sign of Aquarius, which means that basically it's a full moon and it's opposite the sun in Leo. So eclipses happen sort of in sets, once or twice a year, and this one is really big, and the reason for that is that the connections that the eclipse is making are quite, energetically quite profound. So I'm going to try and explain it to you just energetically, because that's really what astrology is. Astrology is the study of energy, and when we feel into that energy, it helps us to understand what's going on, which is really why I do these things. I'm doing this as a video because I feel it quite strongly energetically, and it's sometimes just easier to get it across like this, especially when I'm actually feeling into the energy of the time. So many of you might be feeling this as well. The energy of this lunar eclipse as we build towards it is quite erratic, quite intense, can be very restless. It's almost like an electrical energy. There's a sort of a sense of urgency about doing things, getting things done, but then there's another part of us that's kind of seems to be held back. So I'll explain it to you astrologically, and maybe we can look at some tools and ways of dealing with this and ways of navigating this energy. So if you look at the actual eclipse, eclipses happen basically in sets twice a year, and this one is in Aquarius. So in other words, the full moon is in Aquarius, opposite the sign of Leo, which is the sun. In addition to that, right next to the moon, at 1 degree away, is the planet Mars, which is a masculine planet. It's our masculine drive. It's that energy that we want to take out into the world and achieve things. In addition to that, Mars is retrograde, which means that it's going backwards. Mercury is going retrograde the day before the eclipse, and all of those are squaring. So the sun, the moon, Mars, and the nodes are squaring Uranus, which is a planet of change. So I know that's a lot of astrology, so I'll try to put it into English. Really, astrology is the language of energy. So let's look at it energetically. The full moon in Aquarius is the moon. It's a very individual moon. It basically encourages us to say, are we taking our light into the world in an individual way? Are we being innovative? Are we feeling stuck in old ruts? This is the eclipse, which is hoofing us out of those ruts. So if you're feeling any of the things that I may have mentioned, you might be feeling that restlessness, you might be feeling an urgency. It might not be entirely pleasant. For me, I feel it almost as if there's a lot of firecrackers going off inside me. Or yesterday I spoke to a friend and said it felt like I had a galloping horse that wanted to get out of me. It helps me to actually find images to work with this energy, and it might do to you as well. So if you just feel into the energy, it might actually give you some clues as to what's going on. So that's the energy of Aquarius, and the full moon in Aquarius is who are you as an individual. It's opposite the sun in Leo, which is, are you taking your creative energy out into the world in a way in which serves you? Are you being true to yourself? Are you being authentic? Are you being taken off course by other people, or are you sticking to your own course? Those are all things that will be looked at in this energy. Mars retrograde, which is right there, as I said, Mars is the energy that says push forward, push forward, push forward. But when he's going retrograde, it's almost like we have to renew, we have to recall, we have to go back, and sometimes we get held back, and that leads to frustration. So you might find that there's people that are very agitated around you. You might find that you really need to call on some tolerance for yourself and other people, because old stuff is coming up to be released to make way for the new. But that's not always comfortable at all. It can almost feel like you're in a maze with a lot of thoughts going on in your mind, and not sure what they are or where they come from, and also not terribly sure what to do with those thoughts. So it's that's coming up, especially with Mercury retrograde. This eclipse cycle is aligned with the last solar eclipse that we had in Cancer, which probably would have brought stuff up from your childhood or from your past or from your family. So they work in conjunction with each other, in sequence. So if you journal and if you look at yourself on a deep level, just look back to 2 weeks ago and see what was going on for you there, because that might give you clues as to how to deal with this energy now. It will also be affecting most strongly people who have fixed signs. So in other words, people who have energy, either the sun, the moon, or the ascendant in Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, or Scorpio, particularly Leo and Aquarius. So you can have a look at your chart to see where that plays out. If you don't have planets there, then you can just look to see where the house is, what house it's actually moving through. So for example, if it's moving through your house of possessions or money, then that's what the axis is going to come up. There's going to be money issues that you need to look at and clear and reassess and reevaluate. And you might feel that you want to do something different, but the time might not feel right to do that. So that's how I would suggest that you look at that. Eclipses are always more powerful than normal full moons. They happen when the sun is in close contact or conjoins with something called the nodes of the moon. So without going into too much detail about that, the nodes of the moon symbolize where we've come from and where we want to go. Our past that we need to release and where we would like to actually take our energy into the future. So again, this is activating this axis, and it's the last time for a long time, for probably 19 years or so, that this particular nodal axis, the Leo-Aquarius axis, is going to be triggered this strongly by this kind of eclipse. This eclipse is apparently the longest eclipse this century. It'll appear as a red moon, most likely, if you can see it. And basically it's just much more potent in terms of its energy, extends longer and kind of goes deeper, it penetrates deeper. Uranus is the planet of change, and when Uranus is involved, which it is in Technicolor, it's asking us to go into the depth of our soul, beneath the surface, to look at what those patterns are, how our minds work, if we just let them go, what our minds do. This is a really good time to actually see what happens when we just allow our minds to go all over the place. It's also a very good time to look at how you're expending your energy. Are you allowing yourself to be sort of taken this way and that way by the phone, by the email, by other people, or are you actually sticking with what you really want to do for your soul's evolution, which is what the nodes are about. The way that I would suggest that we navigate this, and we're all in it, is to do whatever we do to actually bring us into a quiet place, to take away some of the anxiety if possible. So if you're very anxious about something, and there's that sort of the nervous system overload, this is Uranus rules the nervous system. So you might literally feel that your nervous system is on full charge. You might not be sleeping very soundly. So the things that you do to actually help to sleep well, to rest before you go to bed, maybe meditate before you go to bed, maybe play some beautiful soft music, possibly cut down on stimulants like coffee, maybe wear clothes that don't fire you up and don't make you feel hotter energetically. Maybe go for a nice pacifying, gentle, beautiful massage with oils. Walk on the beach, walk out in nature, lie on the ground, discharge. This is electrical energy. So discharge it. If you can walk outside with no shoes on, that would be really good. Look at your worries and write them down. Get them out of your head and onto a piece of paper so that you can see them from another perspective. Aquarius always asks us to look at our perspective, look at things in a different way. So if you have problems, this is a good chance to actually look at them from a different perspective than the perspective they were when the problems were created. So to think out of the box, to brainstorm with people that you respect about ways that you can deal with your problems and your anxieties and your worries. So I think that's, you know, I can go on forever about this, but I think breathing, being centering yourself, see if you can bring yourself in to the middle, into the center point again and again and again. So whenever you feel energy going this way and that way and this way, just see if you can breathe and bring it in, and see if you can focus on what's ahead of you. What's the next thing that you have to do? One breath at a time, as another friend said to me today. One breath at a time. If you're writing a letter, one sentence at a time. If you're planning a project, one step at a time. That's what Mars retrograde and Mercury retrograde kind of urge us to do. There's a lot of retrograde energy at the moment. So on the one hand, there's this push, push, push energy, and on the other hand, there's no, 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 not yet, not yet. Or push, push, push. No, you can't do that because you've got to take care of that first. So that's what's leading to the frustration, and we're all feeling it. So people that aren't attuned and aren't conscious of that might fly off the handle. So it's kind of up to us to try and keep the waters a little bit calmer if we can within ourselves. I think that might help us all. I thought I'd do something different today. This morning I was chatting to my good friend Claudia, who's a hypnosis practitioner of many, many years standing and huge experience, and just ask her how she was feeling about this energy before I explained anything about the astrology. And it was so interesting to get her perspective and her guidance and her insights. So I'm going to hand over to Claudia, and you can hear what she has to say about the energy from a non-astrological point of view. So Claudia, how do you feel? You were talking this morning, and we were talking about how you feeling this energy with not being an astrologer, but being someone who's quite sensitive to energy. How do you feel this energy?
Sure, you put me in the hot seat here. Well, I was doing my Qigong practices this morning, and it's a time to really kind of feel inside. And there is this fluttering, nervous energy inside of me that I don't particularly fond of. It makes me indecisive and, how can I say this, kind of unfocused. I feel like I'm a feather in the wind that has no directions. And so when I was in my standing meditation and I asked, so what should I do about this without you telling me about these energies that are all around us? The answer was kind of be steadfast, make your decisions and try to stay with them, and don't be deterred by the energies around you, whether it is planetary or from people or however.
Beautiful. And Claudia, what would you recommend people could do to actually help to facilitate that?
Well, you're asking a person that has very strong biased opinions, because I believe self-hypnosis and self-reflection is always the key to understand ourselves, to get the direction from within authentic, and propels us from within and not directed from the outside. So quiet time, meditation, guided visualizations if you have good ones for the right purpose, and just quiet time, and maybe even also spoil yourself a little bit, like a massage or a walk in nature. Just be inside the busyness that we have in our life. Find those little pockets where you can just breathe and just be. That would be my advice. I'm certainly going to do that.
Thanks, Claudia. That's it for me. I've summarized some of these points below the video and on my website. I'll be in Durban for some workshops in August, early August. I've got a workshop on the 9th, which is celebrating women, which is fantastic. We're going to be doing it in Gillets. I've got, I think, 2 spaces left on that. And then we have one on the 11th, also at the same place, which is actually investigating this nodal theme. So, are you doing what your heart wants you to do? Are you moving in the direction of your real desires, or are you getting taken away from them? And how can you direct your energy more consistently? Thanks everybody for tuning in, and have a beautiful eclipse. use the energy, look after yourself, take care of yourself, and maybe take some of those tips that we've given you to heart, because this one's a biggie.